Welcome to the Productized podcast. I'm your host, André Marquet, and here we explore the latest trends, tools, and insights in product management and innovation. Whether you're a founder navigating startup challenges, a product manager striving to balance stakeholder expectations, or a leader in a large enterprise looking to drive transformation, this podcast is for you. This is season 18. We're diving into the team product management in a changing world. And today we have an incredible episode lineup with Kristina Kutan. She's a transformational leader. She's also a coach, and she's an expert in neuroscience-backed leadership strategies. Kristina's expertise lies at the intersection of leadership, transformation, and mind work, making her uniquely positioned to share insights that can help product professionals thrive in this ever-evolving tech landscape. But before we dive in, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Let's keep this conversation going and grow our amazing community of product enthusiasts. Kristina, welcome to the Productized podcast. We're thrilled to have you here today.
Hi, André, and everyone who's listening and going to listen to it. I'm very excited, about this talk. Thank you for having me.
So before we dive in, let's start with 3 light questions. These are the trademark light questions we do. What's your favorite app or tech product right now?
I would say I don't have a favorite tech product. I have the ones that I use frequently, and those would be probably Miro, Notion, and YouTube. Because I'm always learning. I love listening to podcasts, to, like educational content. So when I'm on the go, when I'm, even like doing dishes, I always listen to something on YouTube or Spotify. And I use a lot like Notion and Miro in the work I do. So yeah, those 3 are like mostly used, but I wouldn't say like favorite as like in tech.
If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Yeah, to pick one.
Let's go. You go back to Siberia. You're just allowed to take one. Which one would you take?
Why should I take one? Well, I'd say Miro. Yeah.
All right. What's the most unusual or interesting thing about you that people cannot find online?
Well, probably the fact that I used to go to the Olympic School of Snowboarding, and I even have a medal that I won.
Wow.
Not the Olympic medal, but like, just a local competition back in Siberia. Yeah. So that's...
Are you still snowboarding? Are you still doing it? I mean, Portugal is not a big snowboarding destination, as you know. So do you get to do it from time to time?
Yeah, I do. But normally when I'm back in Siberia, but this is probably one of the best places for snowboarding for me because it's like fluffy and nice and white snow and forest. But yeah, I do just for fun, with friends and family.
Okay. I was not expecting that one. So if you've never stumbled upon coaching, what do you imagine you would be doing today?
Yeah, so that would be teaching at university, being a university professor. That's something that I've done because my diploma is in teaching adults. So like being a university professor. And I would probably go back to it. And it's still in the back of my mind, maybe in 10 years or, later on in life, I'll kind of think closer into going back to it.
Okay. So Kristina, let's start by diving into your journey, transformational journey. What led you to focus on leadership and transformation, and especially with this neuroscience lenses?
Yeah, so I would say probably 3 aspects. First is transformation has been a big part of my life, since the age of like 10, we would change, like city. And then I would, join family business at the age of 22, go to Hong Kong and start, taking on new roles, quite early age,
Are you a city girl or are you a more rural person?
I used to be more a city girl, but in the last years, it's, I enjoy being more in nature and rural and kind of connecting to, those roots. Yeah, maybe that's something that comes with age. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does to a certain extent, yes.
Yeah, but you can actually explain it through kind of neuroscience as well. So I'm going to share some of that too. So yeah, transformation, and through career, like, as I said, I used to teach at uni. Then I was like a project manager in a big educational companies. Then I was creating and leading teams. I was a founder. And then like right now I'm a coach. I lived in different cities. I lived in 4 different continents. So it's constant change and constant transformation. So I guess intuitively, I started building my own kind of, mechanism to deal with it. That's first. And then leadership has also been a big part of kind of, what I'm, in sort of a built-in setup. So yeah, I've been creating and leading teams for the last 8 years, well, 8, 9 years. And I always would do things intuitively. And only then I learned that it's actually about conscious leadership. It's about authentic leadership. So then I started learning and digging deeper into what a leader is. And then I kind of merged it with brain work, because it always fascinated me how our brain and the way it functions affects our decisions, and our decisions affect our reality. It kind of, all three combined in one, and all three is a big passion of mine. So that's how it kind of, the puzzle was merged into one. As like transformational leadership.
All right. So as a former startup founder of Floasis, which I understand was like a marketplace platform for digital nomads, but can you just tell us a little bit about that project, which I believe you have already exited?
Yes. So we started it in 2020, and it all came through, during the pandemic time, because back then I had already been working remote for a while. And then one of my friends, he was stuck in Colombia in the middle of the jungle, and we would have, Zoom calls. And the idea kind of merged like, hey, there are so many amazing places around the world where you can be not just productive, but experience, lifestyle. Because I remember looking for houses around, like Lisbon and in the Algarve to kind of, since we're all like in lockdown, why we don't do it in a nicer environment? And it took like ages, so we used like Airbnb platform and like local platforms as well. So it would like take ages. Plus there was no guarantee for like a space to be productive, like strong Wi-Fi and like tables and chairs. So yeah, then the idea came to life, like let's make a platform for remote workers, digital nomads that combine work and kind of lifestyle and fun. So that's why it's called Floasis. It's like finding your flow in places. Yeah, it was a fun journey. I was really passionate, and I still believe in the idea of, merging life, like your work in your lifestyle. So I think there is a huge shift in the modern world that started probably from the pandemic as well. People don't want just to work anymore. They want to live, and they want to incorporate meaningful work in their life. So that's what the platform empowered.
All right. It allowed people to go on this marketplace and choose venues with this specific flow instead, Wi-Fi and requirements.
Yeah. So we had a kind of unique set of filters. So first of all the accommodations were curated in a way that all of them were remote work proofed.
How did you assure that?
So we came up with the ambassador program. Had first of all, we had the database of those like boutique hotels or villas. There is one of my favorite stories. There was a castle in France, and they used to operate as like a boutique hotel. But then pandemic happened and they had to shut down. So the business was kind of struggling. And I was the one suggesting them shifting their model into remote workers and digital nomads. And each, I wouldn't say it saved their business. Like I'm not in the, operational part of what they went through. But until today, they function as a co-living. They cater to remote workers, digital nomads. So yeah, we kind of had those special places. So they were not like apartments, for example, that normally Airbnb offers. And then we had ambassador program of micro influencers that would go to those places. They would have the full experience of like 4 or 5 days. They would have the proper review. They would promote this place on social platforms, and they kind of proved that the place was, what it's kind of is meant to be, fun and everything that you need to be productive. And then, on the platform, there was a unique set of filters. So you could choose a Wi-Fi speed. You could choose the type of lifestyle and experience you wanted to have, maybe shared in a co-living or active, like doing surfing. You could also choose the nature type. So going somewhere in the mountains, staying by the ocean.
Right.
So it was, very, I'm still kind of passionate about.
Okay, yeah, speak with passion, but you sold the business, right?
Yes, in 2022.
And how did that experience, as a founder, shaped your approach to leadership and specifically the creation of the Lifecraft methodology that you're using now?
And quick break, did you know this year's Productized conference is a big one? We're celebrating our 10th edition. For a decade, we've been bringing product managers, designers, and innovators together in Lisbon for top-tier insights, interactive workshops, and invaluable networking. This year, it's bigger and better than ever with world-class speakers and special anniversary celebrations. Don't miss your chance to be part of it October 16th to 17th in Lisbon.
Join us for the big celebration. Tickets are now available at www.productized.co. We hope to meet you there.
Yeah, so, that experience taught me a lot of valuable lessons. And, first of all, startups are kind of about pushing through, getting things done and getting them done fast. And that's a game that you enter. So I played by the rules and, had burnout, not even once. At some point, I had troubles with the cognitive function of my brain because my brain was so overloaded. Because back then I also had my full-time job. I was doing my full-time job and also, pushing the startup. And I also learned that, urgency doesn't equal productivity. So I wished that I had a mentor or a guide back then who kind of, would help me navigate certain challenges. And especially, the importance of clarity during chaos and how to mentally be stable, right? How to help yourself to navigate through the constant change, constant transformation, fast speed. That's why, Lifecraft method is about aligning of your why I'm doing this and how to do it in the most authentic way, not what social media says or TV shows, because there is a certain stereotype about a founder, which, as I mentioned, is a kind of a game that you enter, but then you can navigate it differently, and knowing how to changes a lot of things. So when I mentor, I've been mentoring startup founders at early stages. So part of the mentorship is navigating your mental capacity, to make things happen. So Lifecraft is based on 3 steps. First, you get raw honest with we do the audit where you're at right now. And this methodology works not only in professional environment, area, right? You can use it in your personal life as well. So first is okay, where I'm at. Because sometimes our brain doesn't want to see certain things because it protects us. So it's very important to go through the first step as a base of okay, this is it. It is
So
what it is.
that's the neuroscience aspect that you have included.
Yeah. So what I included is neuroscience, coaching practices, and a bit of, wisdom from different philosophies. That's another big part of me. I love learning. I'm always exploring. I'm always learning about, how world functions on the micro level. So all of that I included into Lifecraft method.
So can you share what this looks like in practice? What exactly as this transformational leadership program works on a more practical terms, first sessions. So you talked about the audit, but what happens
next? Yeah. So after the audit, we move towards crafting the vision of where you're going, because, releasing a app feature or just the product is not the end kind of
not the end goal.
So we make very clear to our brain, first of all, where we're going and why we're going there. Once
That tends to be very, very hard for most founders, from my experience.
Yeah, so there is a certain frame. I use different techniques. So you could tell from like a format view, it's coaching questions. Then I integrate different practices and homework that you take on till the next session. All of them working on like expanding your brain functions in a way. Because one of the things that fascinated me when I learned about it, that 95% of the time we use fast thinking. So it's fast thinking and there is active thinking or like slow thinking. And 95% of our time we function on fast thinking. And fast thinking is based on, our previous experience, something that we already know. Right. So there is a lot of bias around like the decisions we make, the directions we take on. And it takes a certain space and practices to activate and go back to the slow thinking. And that's what we do through the program as well. So it gives you a clearer view on, okay, where I'm going. And I would say like, the magic happens when you have this clear vision in front of you. Like, okay, that's where I'm going. And going back to the brain function, once we have the vision, our brain takes it as a mission to find the solution on how to get there, even when we're like sleeping, That's why in different cultures, there are like sayings about if something happens, sleep on it, right? It's not just because they thought of like getting rest. It's just because your brain gets the impulse of, okay, we have to solve it. So
Right.
you maybe notice like some solutions come into like the next morning or when you take a shower. It's like, oh, okay, that's because you're not in a different kind of thinking mode. Just to finish as like a third step after we've created the vision and we know this authentic, that's where I want to get, we kind of built a vector plan. And I say vector because it's not a to-do list. I don't believe in to-do lists. So at this level, we create a plan on, like, okay, so if that's the direction when I'm going, so what are the milestones? What are the big kind of, things that should happen prior to it? So you do like kind of reverse engineering. And then here you go. You've got a kind of mapped out the roadmap. And then you can take this roadmap and implement it through your, monthly planning or like weekly and so on. So yeah, that's like a high level process.
Yeah. All right. I think I got it. I'm just wondering, can you give me maybe an example of how this neuroscience-based program has transformed the team that you've worked with, or maybe a specific founder, just to understand a little bit, maybe what is the transformational journey that happens here?
Yeah, I would say transformational. So it's about transformation and it's also about conscious leadership. So I worked with a team where there was, a culture of blame and shame. And the problem was that it blocked innovation and then blocked creation within the team.
Was that a startup environment or is that a corporate environment?
It was a scale up, I would say.
All right, scale up.
Yeah. So, and if you think of innovation, when does it happen? It happens when there is space and freedom to imagine, and there is psychological safety to kind of voice it, right? So, yeah, we incorporated different practices as like feedback sessions, feedback loops, celebrating like learning from mistakes as like fuck up nights. We kind of shifted communication that the founder, the leader would normally use. That's number one, for example. Another team, that I worked with, they kind of struggled with the motivation. And, this simple shift, even going from we are developing a new app feature and shifting it and transforming it into it like, hey, we're helping users save their time, with the daily tasks. That made a huge shift as well. Because, going back to neuroscience, there are three main key hormones. Probably you've heard about them. A lot of people kind of talked about them. Dopamine, cortisol, and serotonin. So if we connect those to leadership styles and the examples that I gave you, basically dopamine its function is motivation and pleasure right now. So good thing, it helps achieve goals. But then in the, in the work environment, the example could be getting joy from reward, like maybe getting a bonus, or, the praise from finishing a project, for example. Then we can talk about serotonin. It's about stability and happiness. So you want that more in your chemical, kind of setup. So it's about being content, basically, on a more regular basis. So it maintains good mood. And in the, kind of team environment, this feeling comes from feeling belonging, recognition, and accomplishment. And that is different type of leadership, right? And then there is cortisol, and cortisol is hormone of stress. Of course, it's good when you're like, it gives you action and energy in the danger kind of situation. And in, the team environment, it could be about deadlines. That's when your cortisol is like getting increases, or when there's like argument with pressure within the team, or blame and shame kind of culture. So you could kind of, even through those hormones, you can connect them to leadership styles. And that is a clear kind of, well, at least for me, outcome that if your leadership style is focused on cultivating the feeling of belonging, accomplishment, and accomplishment is different from, praise and achieving, like getting a bonus or finishing the project. Accomplishment is connecting why I do this feature to kind of bigger picture, right? Like why we even do it. And it might sound as like common sense, but unfortunately, I've seen many other examples of different leadership when it's based on maybe quick dopamine, and then it messes up, with your whole well-being. And when it messes up with your well-being, it affects your efficiency, your mood. And then suddenly, you start feeling something is off, and then, it affects the whole team. Then the founder doesn't understand, like, okay, what's going on? Why we can't reach the new targets? Yeah. So I hope I answered the question.
Of course. I mean, it's obviously very nuanced, but maybe, Kristina, let's talk a little bit about some tools and frameworks. And I think our audience and we love actionable takeaways. What are some practical tools or strategies that some of these specifically product leaders can use to apply some of these concepts you've shared? Is there any quick fix, quick recommendation that you're usually giving that you would recommend?
Yeah. So I would link the, recommendations with a big kind of struggle and phenomena connected to neuroscience, which is called decision fatigue. That's when, we are exposed to many different decisions. And as a product leaders, it's from strategic decisions to day-to-day operational task and decisions. And what is very important to understand is that our brain capacity is limited. So we can't, like Steve Jobs, for example, with his outfit, not because he wasn't creative about what to wear. He was just saving his cognitive function, his cognitive reserve. So what you can do in that sense, first, delegating or automating low impact decisions, right? So like look at the decisions that you make day to day and kind of prioritize those that are aligned with strategic goals and allocate cognitive resources into those decisions. What also helps is creating kind of decision-making routines, making, procedures. For example, let's take, project proposal evaluation. So if you kind of come up with a predefined process for evaluating them, that would save, this kind of energy on decision-making. Setting time limits for decision-making also is a great way to kind of save this cognitive function, not only in professional, but in personal life. And the big part of it is recharging your cognitive kind of capacity. And that's something that gets overlooked. And I know that a lot of, people talk about being in nature more or meditating or journaling, but it's not just because it's like, fancy. It actually, fills in your cognitive reservoir. So like, because when you take away from the jar, you have to, kind of put something back. There is also a concept that I really like that's called Kaizen hour, and it's rooted in Japanese philosophy. And it's used in a lot in like manufacturing, in business, in governments. And it's based on small steps over time and how it works. So introducing Kaizen hour every day or every week. So having from 15 minutes to 60 minutes depending on, what works best for you, to sit down and maybe in the morning, with your coffee or tea or like Sunday and before starting a new week. And looking back, it's like, okay, so the week has gone, or like reflecting on yesterday. So everything that I did it contribute in the direction that I'm going into, where I want to get? If yes, great. How can I optimize it? How can I make it even better? And if not, then okay, what can I start doing right now to kind of, realign with the direction? So that is a very powerful tool that, again, can be used in personal life and in professional, but it helps you realign kind of, where you're going instead of noticing it, when it's too late. That's another thing. And
are you recommending people to use any templates or any canvas for the Kaizen hour, or how would you go for doing it?
yeah, so I give it in my, I have the whole like workbook for within Lifecraft method. So there is like a template for it, but it's, nothing too complicated. So first is like everything that I did yesterday or a week before, did it contribute into where I want to get? Yes, no. And then that, just writing down what I could do better if that's the direction I want to go and what I can start doing. And then there is another thing that I find very powerful is energy mapping. So you could also look at like, okay, identify where I put the most of my energy within last week, for example, and what drained my energy out and what kind of gave me the energy. And you might find very interesting answers, maybe some of the meetings or not necessarily because of the, people involved, but maybe the format of the meeting was kind of not aligned and you felt like you're draining your energy because
Right.
felt not
That's
efficient.
so true.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I love that these tools are simple yet powerful. But for listeners maybe dealing with scaling efficiently and optimizing workflows in larger companies, and I have some people in mind that could be listening to this and thinking about it, this could be a game changer. Obviously, I think lots of people would think, oh, what is the trigger point to start working with a coach like you? Because I think that lots of people would say, I think she's right, but maybe I can do it on my own. Or I think she's right, but maybe I'm still not there. Or I actually agree with a lot of things you're saying, the listener. But what is the trigger point that you see from your experience that makes founders, leaders, company leaders go to you and say, hey, Kristina, maybe we should start working?
yeah. Well, first, I think it takes a certain level of consciousness of understanding what's going on, because not every, I hear that a lot, like, why do I need a coach? Or, so yeah, it takes a certain level of like, okay, accepting that, okay, I'm here and I hit a wall, or like the old ways of doing things doesn't work anymore. And the new ones are not here yet. So I'm in, in between. And understanding that's like kind of first thing. Because if it doesn't happen, then of course you don't need a coach. Like, why would you think you need one? And then there is also a part of being open in terms of, because, there's another thing about our egos and arrogance. Sometimes we think that we know things, and we do to a certain extent. But accepting that, there might be other things that I haven't accessed yet and I haven't tried, and there is more to what I already know. So kind of open-mindedness that also kind of opens the door to, okay, to know how I can do even better from what I'm already doing. So
High performance.
high performance, yeah. And mostly when you hit a wall and you like, okay, I can't figure it out by myself. Well, maybe I can, but it will take me, I don't know, years or like months. Instead, I can go to someone who would navigate me and help me save the time, to get there.
Look, Kristina, I think this conversation has been so helpful, so insightful. But before we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners?
Well, I would say that probably everyone notices right now the world is transforming. I think we're at one of the hugest verge of transformation as humankind, taking any system in the world from economics to political to, and of course, talking about businesses. So we can't lead based on what we knew before, like only using our cognitive function or even like emotional intelligence. There has to be something more to it right now. And I really believe that leadership style and the future of it is shifting towards being rooted in purpose. So that's my kind of, the thought that I want to communicate. Start thinking of like why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's one. And next one is start taking more care about your mental capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Because by the end of the fun but not so fun fact is by the end of 2030, depression will be number one leading cause of diseases worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, fancy these days to take care of the mental health. It's what you need to do to basically survive, right? So yeah, I would say purpose and mental capacity are two directions.
Mental capacity, I think that's a key word we're going to take with us for today. Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives you'd like to share with our listeners as well? Something that might excite you at the moment?
Yeah. Well, I'm always doing offline workshops in Lisbon. The next one's going to be in March on spiral dynamics and level of consciousness development within organizations and teams. So that's going to be...
Mm-hmm. And are these workshops on, IRL, in person?
Yes,
or online?
In
Okay,
person.
so this is in person. So if you happen to be in Lisbon, how can you register for that one?
We're still, waiting for all the links and stuff. So it's coming.
But do you have like a page where you go to your LinkedIn and find?
Yes, definitely. So there is my website that you can find on my LinkedIn page, Kristina Kutan.
Right. And the website being?
KristinaKutan.com.
All right, that's easy, at least if you know how to spell the name. That's, of course, Kristina with a K and Kutan also with a K. Thank you so much, Kristina. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. For our listeners, again, don't forget to connect with Kristina or go to KristinaKutan.com and check out the calendar of events. And to our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button, share this episode with your network, and let's continue this conversation on LinkedIn or in person in one of our future events. Of course, we are organizing the Productized conference here in Lisbon. It's in October. It's going to be the 10th anniversary. It's going to be the biggest event ever done. And we are super excited about it. If you happen to be in Lisbon, do register. Tickets are on sale at productized.co. And stay tuned for more episodes as we bring you the best insights from product leaders around the world. And thank you for listening to the Productized podcast. Until next time, take care and keep building great products. Thank you.